Is this the biggest Newcastle match in the Champions League ever? Yes, welcome back to the channel. Barcelona on the horizon on Thursday evening, and Newcastle United's season has well and truly started. They beat Wolves 1-0. Wasn't the most convincing win in the world, we all know that. However, Newcastle United need to start somewhere, and no better at St James's Park, with Nick Voltemade scoring the only goal. Does it get much better than that? Well, the performance could have been, of course, but let's not worry too much about that. It's a massive week for Newcastle United. Of course, we've got another Premier League match we'll briefly touch upon in a few minutes' time, but it's all about Barcelona on Thursday night. These are the glamour ties. These are the games that you look forward to as a Newcastle United fan. Now, what's Barcelona's form going into this match? Just a 6-0 win over Valencia. Nobody really cares too much. We're missing quite a few of their key players. No, Lamine Yamal, Lewandowski and Raphinha, I think, were late subs. So that tells you the depth that Barcelona have. But can Newcastle win this match? Well, yeah, of course we can. We have got the players that can do the business. Of course, you look at that midfield three. If that midfield three is up against most midfield threes, you would fancy Newcastle United's chances to do a good job. It's just the surrounding areas that I think Newcastle United are going to have to contend with. 3 clean sheets in the first 4 Premier League matches is something you go, yeah, pretty solid if we're being honest. But it's all about that forward play and getting the forward 3 right. And I think that's Eddie Howe's biggest decision of this game on Thursday night. Of course, on Saturday, no Anthony Gordon, so Harvey Barnes got the nod. And I thought Harvey Barnes was very disappointing, if I'm being really honest. I think I'm hypercritical of Harvey Barnes because I think when you look at his return is amazing since he's been at Newcastle in terms of without the injury, but I actually think he can deliver a lot more. I would start Anthony Gordon though on Thursday night. I think Gordon offers something, particularly on the press. I think his pace can really scare Barcelona. And on the right, it's Jacob Murphy or Anthony Elanga who gets the nod. Some people are arguing that Jacob Murphy came in for Elanga because Elanga was dropped. I saw it from another angle. I saw, well, Anthony Elanga's played both games for Sweden, or a lot of minutes for Sweden in those 2 games. Murphy hasn't, and Murphy can be trusted against a Wolves. We've seen his record last season, it was absolutely fantastic. So I have no doubts about Jacob Murphy doing well against Wolves on Thursday night, but I would be really, really shocked if Anthony Elanga didn't start on Thursday night. Again, his pace is electric. He's very, very new and raw in terms of this Newcastle United side, in terms of what Eddie Howe wants, and we're not going to see the finished article of Anthony Elanga right now. I still feel that Newcastle paid £10-15 million too much for Anthony Elanga. Hopefully I'm proven wrong in that respect because these stats will back up eventually. But if it was me, I'd probably start Murphy, but I think Eddie Howe will go Elanga on the right, Elanga on the right, Gordon on the left, and I think Nick Voltemade, of course, will get the nod up front. It's going to be a big ask, another 60-70 minutes with maybe Willisula coming on or Barnes coming on, going on the left and Gordon playing up top. It's going to be really, really interesting how Eddie Howe manages that, because Voltemade, can he play so many games in a short period of time? Who knows, because you've got Bournemouth on the horizon very, very shortly. But how can Newcastle win? Well, I think Newcastle have got to take any chances they get. Barcelona will go in as favourites, of course they will. They've got too many good players. And they even managed to, obviously, rest a few, as we've mentioned, with the likes of Raphinha and Lewandowski. But St James's Park, difficult place to go, of course it is. But it's going to need a bit more than that. We're going to have to be a 12th man, a 13th man, whatever you want to be on Thursday night, because these are a very, very good outfit. You're talking about a team that won LaLiga last year against a Real Madrid side that has the likes of Bellingham, Mbappe, Vinicius Junior, Courtois, the list goes on. So Newcastle have got to be careful and maybe not give Barcelona too much respect, but not let them off the hook either. I think there'll be an optimism around St James's Park, but if you're offering me a point right now, I'd probably take it under the circumstances, because the fact that our next game against Union Saint-Gallen from Belgium, that's a winnable game. So if you offer me 4 points in the first 2, I'd snap your hand off. But what sort of performance can this Newcastle United produce? Can it be the performance of a PSG a couple of years ago, where they were absolutely fantastic? Well, you really, really hope so. Defensively, just very briefly, I think Lewis Hall has to come in and a left back, and I would probably start Livramento at right back. I think it's a bit of a toss-up between Trippier at the minute. I think he played okay on Saturday against Wolves, but for me, I think we just need Lewis Hall in this team. I would go Lewis Hall left back. I think Dan Burn and Fabian Schär will keep their places at centre half, and I think at right back we Livermore with Nick Pope in goal with that midfield three and the forward three of Alanga, Gordon and Voltemade. That's what I think Eddie Howe will go with. Tell me in the comments what you think, what you would go with for that match. But yeah, my prediction for Thursday night's game, heart says 2-1 Newcastle, head says something a little bit different, but I'm going to go 2-1 Newcastle. I think it's going to be a very, very difficult game, and I don't think, if Newcastle were to get beat, anyone would be really surprised, but I'm confident, Eddie Howe, that Newcastle can get a good performance and get the results that will be a perfect start for the Champions League run. Bournemouth on Sunday is going to be an incredibly difficult test, really, really difficult. But if you can go into that game with the high of Barcelona, with maybe a couple of changes, maybe Malik Chow, Sven Botman, Joe Willett, Lewis Miley, those sort of players might have to come in for Bournemouth. But if Newcastle can get that win against Barcelona, what a night it will be on Tyneside, to say the very, very least. But yeah, this has been the preview, if you like, of Barcelona. Can Newcastle United get that win over Barcelona? Is it the biggest game in the Champions League history for Newcastle? Let us know what you think. But yeah, if you like this video, that'd be greatly appreciated if you can give it a thumbs up. And if you can subscribe to the Jonathan Greenwood YouTube channel, that would be greatly appreciated. So from myself, Johnny, we'll see you all very soon.